This meeting of the Board of Parks and Recreation to order. I'm Michelle Cummings Steele, Chair of the Board of Parks and Recreation. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm going to move to the appeal of decisions. Pursuant to the provisions of 2.68.030 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, please take notice that decisions of the Metropolitan Board of Parks and Recreation may be appealed to the Chancery Court of Davidson County for review under a common law writ of certiorari. Any appeal must be filed within 60 days after entry of a final decision by the board. Any person or other entity considering an appeal should consult with an attorney to ensure that time and procedural requirements are met. We'll move now to consideration of the minutes. Have you all had an opportunity to read the minutes of our November meeting? And I'll accept a motion. Is there a second? Been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you so much. Are there any referrals from Metro Council members present, Director Odom?
None today, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. We'll move now to old business 09-22-05 pursuant to the acceptance of the donation of a 4.4 acre parcel of property adjacent to the Nashville Zoo for a parking garage. Parks Board Agenda, item 122103, December 2021. Staff requests approval to amend the current lease agreement between Metro Parks and the Nashville Zoo to include the donated parcel. The acquisition committee met this morning. Is there a report from acquisition?
The acquisition committee recommends approval.
Thank you so much. Are there any comments or any additional comments? Thank you so much. I'll accept a motion. Is there a second? It's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion passes. We're moving now to 11-22-02. Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition requests approval to officially name the property located on parcels 162-000-30600 and 162-000-30500. and parcel 162-000-30400 at Mariposa Park. The naming committee met this morning. Commissioner Scott Barnes, is there a recommendation?
The naming committee recommends approval.
Thank you so much. Director Odom, are there any other comments or a recommendation?
No, ma'am. None.
Thank you. Is there any discussion from the board? I will accept a motion. Is there? Thank you so much. All in favor? Any opposed? The motion passes. 11-22-03, staff requests approval in concept of a participation agreement between Metro and 1000 2nd Avenue North, LP, the developers of Stockyards, a proposed multi-use development adjacent to the Cumberland River Greenway downtown located at 900 2nd Avenue North. The participation agreement will include design and construction of the improvements subject to Metro Parks design approval and permanent maintenance by the owners of the property. The acquisition committee met this morning. Commissioner Haynes?
We recommend approval.
Thank you so much, Director Odom. Any other comments or recommendation?
None.
Thank you so much. Is there any discussion from the board? I'll accept a motion.
Second.
Thank you so much. It's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion passes. 11-22-04, staff requests approval for an agreement of a grant of Greenway Conservation Easement between Metro Government and Union Brick RE LLC on property owned by Union Brick RE LLC located at 801 12th Avenue North, Nashville, Tennessee, 37203 on parcel ID 0920-403-2300. The acquisition committee met this morning. Commissioner Haynes?
We recommend approval.
Director Odom, are there any other comments or recommendation?
None.
Is there any discussion from the board? I'll accept a motion. It's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion passes. We'll move now to the consent agenda. I'll accept a motion to accept the consent agenda in its entirety, unless there are any comments.
I'd like to pull out the West Nashville Sports League from the consent agenda in order for us to be able to discuss it today.
Okay, and what number, please?
It's the last one on the list of consent agenda items.
I see it. All righty, I will accept a motion with the amendment. Is there a second?
Second.
All righty, been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you so much. We'll move it to the end, or let's do it now. So, West Nashville Sports League, baseball and softball fields at adjacent area, Warner Park. Commissioner Scott Barnes.
Yes, I wanted to bring this up. We've had a lot of discussions, a lot of meetings over the last year plus with West Nashville Sports League and the usage at Warner Parks and the permitting related to that. So I think going back to the last time we talked about permitting was in January, and the language that was supposed to be included in the permits didn't end up in the permits. This came from John Holmes. The recommended language to be added into permits was that if there was sub-permitting or renting of the fields, that would be needed to be approved by parks. And if there were any fees related to that would just need to be transparent. That is not included in the current permitting. So there are a few other questions I have related to this particular permit. We also talked about the access and the accessibility to the fields and whether or not they could be locked or closed. That was also going to be highlighted in these permits. So I didn't see that in the 2023 language. And then I think, so just be helpful to understand if there was sub-permitting, what was it? What were the fees? And then it's come to my understanding that there were some violations of the sports fields, and I know that's not what is on the agenda today. What is on the agenda today is the baseball fields, but according to the tournament schedule from this permit holder, the other adjacent property that the parks owns was slated for 4 sports fields, but 7 were being used by them according to their website at any given time. So I guess I'm happy to hear from John Holmes, and I think we just need to figure out a way to address these particular issues.
Okay. The first, as far as the subleasing, once we started talking to all the different permit holders, we found that a lot, if not most, of the permit holders that have annual permits do that to some degree, some to a much more extensive degree than what West Nashville Sports League does. So I wasn't sure how to add that into it, and so we didn't add anything in that language. I felt like the annual permit was addressing what had to be there. I can add something in that direction if you all would like. But at this point, we felt like everybody was doing basically the same thing, and we didn't add anything to that degree. West Nashville Sports League wasn't doing anything different than what all the annual permit holders were doing.
I think the issue came up when we were really dealing with overuse problems or overuse issues, and I think the kind of question came up, and it also has to do with kind of how our we're not charging the permittee on this particular permit. So, just understanding the fees and how they might be permitting it out to private school, for example, or public school. I think it just is, for transparency, we should understand what is happening. So if you don't have that information now, I think it'd be helpful to come back for the next meeting and provide that kind of information.
I can do that, and we can get that for all permit holders. We'll ask for who's charging a fee and what those fees are, and we'll have that for the next meeting.
That would be great. Thank you. I think that, coming back to that, on this particular item, I would be comfortable with giving, approving a permit. But I think the question is, if the permit holder is in violation of the other permit on the adjacent property, how can we hold them accountable to what, the usage agreement should be? So if we're saying, that other adjacent properties should have 4 lined fields, but they're using 7, and this has continued to be an issue of overusage, and we've been clear about saying, this is what you're permitting to do, and they're not. What do we do with the current one on the agenda today for the baseball fields? I'm not sure the answer, but I don't feel super comfortable with approving it. So we could approve with conditions, or we could defer.
So my understanding in looking into this a little bit is that at one time he was in violation of using too many fields, but since then, and since all the uproar and all we went through last year, he has been staying with using 4 fields at a time, and then he's also been staggering his times of the games to minimize traffic. And my understanding is the traffic is better than it was when it was brought to our concern. The other thing I wanted to point out is one of my thoughts on the matter is that currently he is, he was in here, I guess, last meeting or 2 meetings ago to ask for a temporary use of the baseball fields for football, particularly when we had rainout situations and he was making up games and stuff like that. And I personally feel like that's something that should be allowed, that use there. Makes sense to me, and that way he doesn't have to come back in and get temporary changes. And I think if it's not being used for baseball, then I think using it for football seems to be a good thing. I'll go further and just say, I know a lot of us here, our children have benefited from Scotty's organization, and so he runs a very good program that's difficult to replicate. And obviously are on our land to some degrees, but he also obviously runs a big basketball program as well. And so I think we need to kind of wipe away the past and start afresh, eliminate maybe the personalities, and just agree to get along better and to obey by the rules. And I think we can certainly set those rules how we wish. So as far as procedurally goes, I don't know. Sounds like we got several variables. You also brought up the gates, the locking the gates. I mean, I think there's 2 sides to that. Scotty has maintained the fields, and at some time, whatever time we decide, I think is reasonable. I don't think it's unreasonable to lock the gates so there's not any damage or any of that kind of stuff done. So that's my. I don't know procedurally. Back to your point, I don't know how to move it from here, or defer it and redo it, or whatever. But we can figure that. Somebody can figure that out smarter than I am.
If I could add a couple things real quick. The permit does specifically state the general public may use the facilities at such times they are not being used by the league. So that does specifically say they have to be accessible if he's not using them. The stipulation is if he's got them prepared for, and this is true for all permit holders, if they're prepared for games, they're allowed to lock them up so that the public can't get on and tear them up for that. But if they're not being prepared for a game, they're not supposed to be locked up. And he and all permit holders have been instructed on this. They've all been told this in writing. One thing that concerns me today is I was told just a few moments ago that WNSL has violated the 4-field stipulation that I put to him in writing last spring. If that's the case, I don't know why then WNSL shouldn't. As the person who issues the permits, I'm not inclined to issue him a permit for those fields in the future. I've tried to look on the website. I'm not able to find the information that shows that happened. So we are going to research that and find out if that's the case, that he did, or that WNSL did use the 7 fields. As I said, our maintenance folks requested that the fields be lined the way they were lined for convenience or for more efficiency of the maintenance, so that they didn't have to come out there and be lining them every week. They could more efficiently use them, and then they could shift based on, demand on the fields. But they were specifically told you could only use 4 fields at any one time. So we were under the understanding that that's what they were using. So we're going to further research that and find out if that was violated. So
So Scott's here. If he wanted to speak to that, is that okay?
That is fine. I was
For a minute.
going to call on him,
Okay,
Commissioner
sorry.
Johnston. I was going to call him Commissioner. Scott Tigert, if you want to address the accusation that has been made, we would love to hear from you if you come to the podium, please.
Scott Tigert with the West Nashville Sports League. Thank you for the discussion. I don't know where John's getting his information, but we're in no way have violated the use of the baseball field permit is one area. The leasing of the flag football fields are called multi-use fields, or another permitting process, right? And we were told not to go over the use of those multi-use fields that we use for flag football, more than 4 fields. And as soon as that happened, that's what we have done. We have no way I can provide schedules, I can provide whatever, have gone over the use of 4 fields for flag football or any sport out there. We are rule followers. We are a large organization. I'm sorry that we've become antagonistic over the last couple of years because of the Miracle Field issues. I apologize for my demeanor if I've caused this. 26 years of serving the community and providing youth sports is a passion of mine. I'm a native Nashvilleian. My brother, of course, was a councilman. All that's peripheral stuff, but it's become a matter of trust. Yes, sir.
One quick question. So just so I'm clear, and I've been out there obviously, but I've forgotten. So there's 7 fields, but you're only using 4 of them at a time, and that's where you stagger the parking and people coming and going and all that stuff. Is that the logistics of it?
Yes, sir. Years ago, that when the fields were built, that I helped build with Mr. Fike, there's 3 large soccer fields. There's field 1, 2, and 3. They are large high school soccer fields, and that area can be divided however you wish. And with our program growth and the number of kids, we played on 7 smaller 30 by 70 flag football fields within that area. So you can say there should be 3 fields, you can say there should be 4, it should be 7, but it's the area that we have out there. We did play on 7 flag football fields. In the last year, we've played on 4. We lined them for 7 fields because Casey Buttry, the maintenance fellow at Warner Park, asked us to move games from one field, not to play games on the same area. So we lined the 7 fields so we could maneuver. And one week we play on field 1 and 2. The next week we'd play on 3 and 4. That kind of thing, to save the grass out there. So we're doing what we're told to do, and I'm sorry if you don't trust me with that, but that's the honest to goodness truth. As far as the other quick thing about the use of the baseball fields, with the number of games we have and the rain situations we have, in the past few years, we played outside of the regular times at night. When there's no traffic out there, we would move or have our rescheduled flag football games that got rained out. We would put them under the lights on the 2 large baseball fields to get our games in, so that we did not play on those baseball fields anything but baseball, except when we had rainouts for flag football. And we also utilized those baseball fields at night for kids to practice soccer on. We take requests for the fellows that play cricket to play on the baseball fields, those kinds of things. So the use of the baseball fields is for baseball. But we were utilizing them for makeup games and off times when other games weren't going on. We're not trying to create more traffic out there. We're trying to be great citizens out there, and I'd like to work further with John and his department about some more mitigation of traffic out there. And we've done some scheduling things, as Cruz mentioned, about playing on the half hour and on the hour of game scheduling, and it's helped a lot this last year, even with 4 fields. But anyway, thank you very much for your time, and I hope I've answered your questions. If not, I'm here to answer them.
Are there any additional questions? from
Yeah,
the
I mean,
board?
I appreciate your comments, but I am just pulling up the website and the master schedule. And for example, on October 1st, Warner Parks Superfield number 1 has a game at 8:30. Warner Parks Superfield number 2 has also a game at 8:30. Number 3, a game at 8:30, or excuse me, 8 o'clock. And then number 4 all the way to 7. There's games scheduled. So
The 4 fields.
there's 7 fields listed on your website.
But if you'll look at the time, we staggered. Sometimes we would play the afternoon. We would move from field 2 to end at noon and then start at 1 o'clock or whatever to play on the other field.
I'm not sure what to say.
Okay,
So
I don't either.
let me ask John a question. The permit that we're currently considering is for the spring baseball fields, correct?
The permit that you're doing, the annual permit, is for baseball, doesn't have anything to do with the flag football fields.
So what I would recommend to this board is that we approve the baseball permit and that we need to come up with some better process in anticipation of the usage of the 7 fields. That's a fall permit. Is that correct, John?
Well, no, I mean, he uses it from the time we start, the grass starts growing again, they start using it.
So is there a
until-
separate permit that we will receive for the football?
No, this is something that we do through our permitting office. This is not a permit. Anybody can come out there and rent those fields. His program happens to be the largest user of those fields out there, but there are other groups that utilize those fields as well throughout the summer. But his group is the biggest user of those fields.
So once again, the permit that we're discussing is for baseball
only.
When would we renew the football permit?
You don't have anything to do with the base. As of currently, the park board does not do anything with the fields that we issue permits for practice and games, and like at Rose Park and Cleveland and all the other sports fields. You only do the ones that are annual permits where there is a group that is responsible for the maintenance and utilities and the programming and I don't want to say exclusive, but the primary use of a sports complex. And that's what you approve. That's what these are.
How are they different, though? I'm confused now.
How are these different?
No, how is football versus baseball different? Is it a different program, Scott?
There's a yearly permitting process that we're going through right now, and then there's the leasing process that we apply for a lease for. We have 2 seasons, Jeff, of flag football in the spring and fall. So we request a month or so ahead of time for the 2 months. We request for the 2 months that we're going to play in the spring. That's a request, and then we come back in the fall and request through John's office. So there's the permitting process, which you're going through right now, and then there's a leasing process that is handled on a case-by-case basis by the season or by the sport. So there's two separate issues here. And
Mr. Taggart, question.
Yes.
I think I understood you to say this in different words. So let me ask this as a question. Am I understanding you to say that although there's 7 fields, you're only to be using 4 at a time?
correct.
You're not using more than 4 at a time.
Right.
You're rotating between the 7 fields,
Yes, sir.
but not having more than 4 in use. Is that correct?
Ms. Scott Barnes, I'll be glad to go over our schedule with you if you don't trust me. I promise you that
I don't trust you. It's just that's what it says.
I think you're reading our schedule incorrectly, to be honest with you. But I know you guys have got more things to press on.
What I would suggest at this point, if you're comfortable with it, I'm going to have him go over it with me to where I'm comfortable with it. Then I'll contact you and tell you what I've learned from it. And then you and I can discuss it and see if I can answer your questions. Are you okay with that?
That's fine. Yeah. And I mean, I guess, thank you. Yeah, that sounds great. I think the challenge is the baseball fields where there's been a history of saying one thing and doing another. Last 2 months ago, we were in front of us giving the exception to the usage of the baseball fields. And during that meeting, we learned that actually the permit says that the use of the baseball fields is for youth, but in fact, it's for adults. I mean, I'm not going to that's not a huge issue for me, but if we're making policies and making permits, we want permit holders who are willing to go by the permit and what it states. So if there's a history of kind of saying one thing and doing another, I just have concerns about it. So I guess I'd be willing to approve the existing permit for the baseball field with additional scrutiny. That's my recommendation.
Or for clarity, for Scott's sake and everybody's sake, why don't we have one permit for WNSL so it's very clearly outlined what we're all in agreement? It's like there's like two sides to this arrangement. I mean, I think that'd be good for everyone.
Except that the multi-purpose fields are not annual. They're not annual permit fields. We have a limited number of multi-purpose fields, so we don't do annual because we want everyone to have access to them.
I guarantee you Scott knows the schedule to exactly what he needs annually. I mean, I just think it needs to be listed because he is the biggest, nothing against it, because you're the biggest user of it, and that way there's no question.
So you would like to include the flag
I don't see why you wouldn't do it so there's just clarity for everybody. We're getting confused. Every time we get into this discussion, everybody's like scratching their head typically. So it's just a thought. I don't know. I mean, does that make sense? Or
One question, John.
Yes, Ms. Buggs, I'm sorry. Are you on?
Sorry about that. Might it be possible for us to have a retreat to talk about I'm not familiar with the permit process. I'm
and
not
it sounds
familiar
like
with
there
some
is
of the
confusion.
questions. And so it could be helpful for the benefit of Dr. Odom, Ms. Odom and staff for us to better understand what our questions are and then what the policy says, and then we can better support the community with whatever decision we make. I just would like some time to understand
the process. And I think there is confusion. I was going to suggest that we definitely defer this for one meeting to get feedback from staff on Commissioner Scott Barnes' questions. I'm not sure, due to the holiday, if we can do a meeting of that, a meeting before, that time. But I think that if we come back with the questions, we can entertain Commissioner Anderson's suggestion to us and get those questions answered, and we can definitely schedule that. Does that sound okay with the board? To defer one meeting to get those specific answers, and then the larger question, take care of that after the first of the year.
Well, Madam Chair, I have another clarifying question then. So should we pull our questions together and direct them to a park staff member, or what does the process typically look like to get questions answered, to make sure that all board members?
We can send those to Director Odom.
Okay.
John, I'm sorry.
I just need to see who was talking.
Yeah, sorry.
Commissioner Johnston.
What I heard you say was, one clarification is that WNSL maintains the baseball fields.
Correct,
Do we maintain the multi-purpose fields?
correct.
So that's a little bit of the difference, right?
That's a big difference.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. That seems like that's the.
And we pay the utilities to water the multipurpose fields. He pays the utilities, electric and water, to do the baseball fields.
And because back to the baseball fields, he's an exclusive permit holder, so he can choose to sublease it. He can choose to let cricket or whatever he does. That's kind of, it's a master lease
Has to
sort
be
of thing.
baseball
Has to be baseball. All right.
per the permit.
So ultimately, what I would like to encourage this board to do is to give John and his department the latitude to administer these permits successfully. And as long as we trust John and he's got an annual review process with each permit holder, whether they've lived up to the permit the prior year, we ultimately need to defer to he and Monique and their staff and not get in the weeds on this. If we are hearing about violations, I hope John brings them
did.
to us and not anybody else.
And I think absolutely some things came to light today. There were some questions, and I think that we do have to take those into consideration. And so if you would bring us that information back at our meeting in January, I think that would satisfy
And I'm not trying to
this
change,
item on the
and I don't want to change the
agenda.
procedure. I think it'd be good just for us and Scott just to list out, there's two, obviously. You did a good job, Cruz, explaining that. I'd just like to see the annual versus the temporary permitting. It'd be nice to see all the usage. I think we probably have seen it before, but you're anticipated for next year. And no one's here for you not to use the fields, so you'll know. So it's a little clarity, I think, is good.
Yeah.
Because every time we have this discussion, it's just, it's deja
Agreed.
vu.
Well,
Agreed.
it does get, when you look at daily rentals, games, leagues, annual permits, it does get somewhat confusing. So, but we do it every day, so.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So
Yes,
we will defer this for one meeting, taking it up in January if you would bring us back that information.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. We're moving. We voted on the consent agenda, right? Yes, we did. No, wait a minute. We're moving now to new business. 12-22-05, staff requests approval of recommended seasonal employee pay scale revisions. Director Odom, do you have comments from staff?
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to call Mr. Aaron Shelton with Parks Human Resources to the podium to walk through our recommended changes for seasonal pay. As you all may recall, earlier this year, we had discussion about challenges, frankly, that our department had in hiring seasonal staff. And while the range in the existing pay plan book allowed us to increase pay rates, and we did some, we walked through an exercise with support from Metro Human Resources to kind of look at our seasonal positions and classifications to see where there were increases that were needed to be made, and in addition to make recommendations to change the published document the way it appeared, that while we were not hiring staff at $7 or $8 an hour, that was included in the range, and so to omit that from the range and just shift it upward. And I will turn it over to Aaron Shelton, who's done the bulk of the work for the department, working with assistant directors, myself, and then Metro Human Resources to talk through some of the other nuances of this.
Good afternoon. So one of the things that we looked at was where we were with the rates, and not just what was represented in the pay plan, because of course we haven't used those low numbers in a very long time. But looking at what was actually out there. If you know the market right now, it's somewhat volatile. Entry-level positions can start at just about anywhere in the private sector. And so that's one of the things that we're up against. One of the things that we benefit from is that a lot of the seasonal and part-time employees with parks actually are with parks because they want to be with parks. They want to work here. And that's worked for us very much in the past. Because of the difference, it hasn't worked so much for us lately. And so looking at some of the competition, entry-level positions and those type of things, I just took kind of a look at the market itself. And then also got input from Metro HR to kind of set a more competitive entry level. It is not the same level of competition that it is in the private sector. Again, it's a little bit volatile, and we have to be a little bit better stewards of our budgets and those type of things, of course. But we wanted to make it competitive enough to bring those individuals in and keep them here. And so looking at most of our positions, we have a starting rate now of $12, which is still, you might consider a little bit low, but for the positions, we tried to make sure that they were representing the responsibility, the job duties, and those type of things of the positions. The vast majority of those positions now for seasonal part-time will be starting at 15. I think you have that information in front of you. We think that's going to get us to where we need to be as far as being competitive, drawing the individuals that we need into the positions and keeping them there. So that's the kind of the justification for where we are. We did engage with Metro Human Resources Comp, also to get their input and buy-in. They are also specialists, they experts of the market and what's going on. And we wanted to make sure we got their back end and their support as well, and we did. I'm open to any questions that you may have.
Any questions from the board?
Really
Commissioner
more,
DeLay?
really more just comments. And so there's no question we've got to pay people competitively to get them.
Yes.
But us approving rates without really seeing if that's doing the job of filling the positions is only half the equation. So it would be helpful for us to understand how many vacant positions we have as we make these adjustments, how we are doing filling them. In other words, are we doing what we're saying we're going to do? I get it, we need to raise the rates. No dispute about that at all.
Understood.
But we need to make sure that we're hitting the target by them being able to fill the positions.
And I think that we will get more data as we actually implement these to see how that is working. It's very important to do so. When I first put this together, I also thought, this is something we have steps in here for 5 years. Each year has one step. We need to look at this every year. So those steps may not be significant or impactful right now, because we're going to have to look at this every year as we go through it, and get feedback just from the activity to make sure that we have gone in the right direction. Some positions may prove to be, okay, this is wonderful, this works well. Some others, we may need to do other things. And that is not just looking at the rate, but also the position itself, the title, and how we're actually positioning it.
And if I might add, just to make the distinction, what we are recommending before you today and requesting your approval on is the range, so that if we see that, to your point, Mr. DeLay, if we are starting a position at $13 and that's just not getting it, we have the flexibility internally without coming back to the Parks Board to shift it upward, depending on what the budget can bear and our needs. So we wouldn't have to come back to you again. So this is about the range rather than a single
Is this
rate.
just for the summer?
It's for seasonals.
I mean, the seasonals?
This is just seasonals.
How many seasonals do we?
Seasonal, I'm sorry.
About how many
part-time? Yeah.
How many
Part-time
seasonals do we? I forgot how many we need in the summer.
Ooh, this last summer,
Just curious, more than anything.
I'm trying to think of the number, probably in the area of 230. somewhere
About
in
three,
there.
yeah, just about three.
Yeah.
300.
Question. So the rate, is it $15 or can we approve something higher? So to give you all the
rate?
flexibility to,
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah.
The range is actually higher.
The range.
The starting pay would be at the 15
Okay.
for most of the positions, but we have a range that's built into there, which means if that's not working, at say the 13, because we do have a 12 and a 13, if that's not working, we have the ability to adjust as we need. Yeah.
So the range is 12, 13 to what, 18 or something?
Yes.
Is it?
1860.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's in your packet.
All right.
So the just for example, a rec center A junior, step one starts at $12 and goes all the way up to what, 20,
Okay.
1375, 1475, 1475. So we can shift.
I make a motion, we approve.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Are there any additional questions? All in favor? Any opposed? The motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Shelton.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate your time. 12-22-06, staff requests acceptance of an in-kind grant not to exceed $20,000 from the Nashville Youth Hockey League, NYHL, to fund the purchase and installation of 2 electromech scoreboards on Rink B of the Centennial Sportsplex. There is no required match or other obligation by Parks associated with this grant. Director Odom, are there any other recommendations or comments?
Staff recommends approval.
Thank you. Is there any discussion from the board? I'll accept-
Motion to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. 12-22-07, staff requests acceptance of an in-kind grant approximate value of $2,800 from Rizek Building Group, LLC, of 2 new laptops and a new PlayStation video gaming system for the exclusive use of Kirkpatrick Community Center's new library program. There is no required match or other obligation by Parks associated with this grant. Director Odom, any comments or recommendations?
Staff recommends approval.
Is there any discussion from the board? I'll accept a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you. It's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor? Any opposed? The motion passes. 12-22-08, staff requests acceptance of a grant of $20,000. Grant from the Nashville Parks Foundation in support of the Disabilities Program. There is no required match or other obligation by Parks associated with this grant. Director Odom,
Staff recommends approval.
is there any discussion from the board? Any questions? I will accept a motion. Second. All in favor? Any opposed? The motion passes. 12-22-09, staff requests approval to renew application and ultimately accept a grant award for FY 2022-2023 for the Child and Adult Care Food Program. This program provides nutritious meals and snacks for children attending the after-school programs at now 13 community centers, personnel 6, full-time employees 2.88. The grant period is October 1st, 2022 through September 30th, 2023. There's no required match by Parks associated with this grant. Director Odom,
Staff recommends approval.
any discussion from the board? I'll accept a motion. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you so much. The motion passes. 12-22-10. Friends of Warner Parks request approval to administer a summer camp in collaboration with Warner Park Nature Center. Director Odom,
Staff recommends approval.
are there any discussion from the board?
Make a motion, we approve.
Thank you so much. A second. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you so much. The motion passes. Moving to 12-22-11, staff requests approval of a memorandum of understanding between Metro Parks and the Metropolitan Department of Water and Sewage Services. Metro Water Services requests that Parks agree to manage and maintain the recreation area for the community of Germantown and Salemtown as one of its own parks. Director Odom, any comments or recommendation?
One additional, staff recommends approval, but with the added comment that we have, again, collaborated with the Water Department, and they will actually be funding this, and our staff will be maintaining that area if you approve this. So it's collaborative.
Any questions from the board? We'll accept a motion with that note. Thank you so much. All in favor? Any opposed? The motion passes. 12-22-12, AEG presents requests approval to host a concert in Centennial Park in June of 2023. This event requires approval for amplification and alcohol sales. AEG will pay all appropriate fees and comply with all Parks Department and Park Police requirements. Director Odom, are there any other comments or recommendation?
Staff recommends approval. If you have additional questions, I'd call Jim Hester to the podium.
Are there any questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to ask Jim a question. I think that it would be helpful to understand this kind of in the way that Ascend closes the park for its concerts before and after. If you have a sense of the closure that's required?
Yeah, we do. And actually, that's a good question because that's the reason we brought it to you, is it's a little bit of a larger impact on the park than it would normally be. Is that what they're proposing and they have not yet put together, but it's a concept to put together a 3-day concert. And they did this before in August of 21, and they did a great job with it, but that was one day, and this will be a 3-day concert, so we'll have more closure on the roads in the park and more impact on the park. So that's why we're trying to be very careful about whether we should or shouldn't do it. This represents a step forward in a bigger level and a bigger scale event than we've done in recent years here at Centennial Park. In the past, they used to do these things all the time, but now we haven't in a long time. And we do have that new front lawn, and so we're trying to be very good stewards of that, and we're trying to be careful about what we do. But that question is the heart of why you're hearing this, is because it does have a larger impact on the park. We do feel pretty confident that AEG is going to do what they need to do because they did it before. Like everything they break, they fix. Everything they say they're going to do and everything that we request them to do from a maintenance standpoint or from Parks Police or from the closure of the facilities, they do everything they can do to help accommodate and do what we need to do. So it went well last time, so that's why we're recommending this time that we should take the next step forward and see whether this is okay, whether this works.
So, and do you have a sense of how many days in advance it would be closed?
They would let in on Monday. They start letting in on the Monday. The concerts would be, it hadn't been put together yet, but it would be Thursday, Friday, Saturday concerts. They'd be out by the next Monday, which actually is comparable to about what the gala did. When the Conservancy did the recent gala, they were there about that long as well.
And the percentage of the park space that would be required for their use?
You know, it impacts everything because of the roads, but it's really just the front lawn. The front lawn and the Parthenon parking lot, a little bit on the sides, is where the actual event takes place. Because of the size and scope of it, you know, the impact goes beyond, you know, with parking and traffic and things like that. It goes beyond that. But
Okay, and my last question is fees. How does that factor in? Are they paying a fee?
Yeah, they'll pay we have standard fees, you know, daily fees that are in place for use of the Parthenon lawn, which y'all increased about 3 years ago. And so and then according to what they're doing, if they're selling alcohol, if they're selling tickets, you know, there's a whole set of a range of fees that they do pay. And then also what they have done is, and what they did in the last time, is that they've agreed to reimburse the Conservancy for any loss of revenue at the Parthenon. So it's from a revenue standpoint, a very positive thing for the park.
Thank you.
Jim, what happens in the event of inclement weather where we take the risk that the front lawn has more damage to it because of all the foot traffic on the lawn? Does the permit holder then help us with those repairs, or is that a park obligation?
They do the repairs, and I can tell you, Phil Luckett will be on me in a second, and they will do all of the repairs to whatever it takes to do that. The bigger problem in that instance is them. They lose quite a bit if there's a bad weather. But for the going into it, anything they break, they have to fix. They bear the total cost of any replacement.
When we redid the park, which I was involved with from the beginning, that lawn was made for this. This is a really good test. And, you know, apparently you can drive an 18-wheeler over it. And it was raining when they did that event last time. And so it was really built for this. So this is a good test, I think.
Well, I just have to say, you can't drive an 18-wheeler on it. You don't want to do that. But you have to be careful about what you can and can't do.
I thought you told me that, Jim.
but there are some ways to get in and out, which actually they helped us develop from the last concert. They actually helped us how to do something of this scale, because they're the first or second largest concert promoter in the world. And they came in and said, this is how you do this. And then we've been able to use that as a template on how we do larger events at the park.
How many folks are we talking about, you think? I mean, concert goers. Do they camp out?
It depends
how
on
does all
the
that work?
artists, which they have not named yet, but we're looking at a maximum of 15,000 a night. Okay. They did before the Dan and Shay concert was about 9,000. We'd agreed to let them do to 10, so this is a step up, but it's about 15. Might be 10, depends on, you know, the weather and the artist, but no more than 15,000 a night.
Thank you so much. We're good with the questions? All righty. We'll move now to...
I make a motion we approve.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you so much. The motion passes. We're moving now to special presentations. Friends of Bells Bend Park to present their annual update to the board. You have 7 minutes.
Oh, sure. Thank you. I'm Sharon Work, the president of Friends of Bells Bend. I just want to go over a few things that we've done in the last couple of years. It's been a kind of rough spell with COVID, but some of the things that we've accomplished, we have new trail signs. We didn't fund all of them, but we helped fund those trail signs that were badly needed because Bells Bend had never had official trail signs. So this is a really good thing for us. We also completed the monitoring of our wetlands, and we have a wetland project that's been going on for years. It was with the mitigation of some land at the John Toon Airport for their expansion. So we've been monitoring those wetlands, and it has been certified, and that means that the plants and the water and the wildlife are all working right for a wetland. So that's a good thing. They're all functioning properly. We also have been continuing with our invasive species removal, which is an impossible task, but we've been working around the Buchanan House. We also participated in weed wrangle, and we did the garden, around the garden for that. Each year we have an outdoor show, and this year our outdoor show is in April, and it highlights outdoor recreation. We had some new vendors and some new programs for that. We have a new logo. This is our logo. It's a woodcock, which is kind of special to Bells Bend Park. They do programming on this at the end of February. It has some special dance it does in the sky and in the fields out there during its mating season. So it's something worthwhile to go out and see during kind of near sundown. We still have an ongoing garden project out there. We have some raised beds for herbs and for vegetables. And we help buy plants for that, and I supply manure for that, so that's a good thing. We help fund one of our new employees, our new naturalist, Krista Allen, to help her go to wilderness first aid training so she can save us if we're stuck out there. My favorite event is always Farm Day, and we didn't get to do Farm Day last year because of COVID, but we got to bring it back this year. It features animals. The neighbors bring farm animals. We had produce, we had meat, we had jam, honey, all for sale. We have farm equipment and tractors, so all the kids can look at all the tractors and all the old men can study all the farm equipment. We had music, we had food, we had children's activities, some programs on hiking, some programs on how to build your own scarecrow. But the crowd favorite of Farm Day, hands down, are the hayride wagons. Everybody loves a hayride wagon, and they will stand in line for a long time to go on one. We had lots of families out there, lots of children. The weather was great, and we had a lot of fun. I was able to secure some funding, some grants, one from Tractor Supply and one from the Bells Bend Conservation Corridor to help pay for the music and some of the activities. We had about 700 people that attended that, and it's been a good year. Any questions? If you'd like a little sticker, I have a little pile of them.
Thank you so much for being here. Can you tell me the name of the bird again?
The woodcock.
Redcock. Woodcock. Thank you. Thank you. I want to see that dance. Any other questions? Thank you so much for being here. Friends of Beeman Park to present annual update to the board.
Good morning. I'm Jim Haney with Friends of Beeman Park, and just like to say I'm amazed and pleased at how far the parks has come since the 40 years ago that I worked at the parks, which I hate to admit, but I mean, it's wonderful. I mean, the more parks we have for the kids, it's how great. Anyway, so what our mission is to help facilitate the park itself. Heather Gallagher, our new manager, been going great guns doing volunteer work, and so we help facilitate with the volunteer work, donate money and the like. We've done we bought tools for invasives, weed wrangle tools that you actually pull up the invasives, and what else? So anyway, we've had Vanderbilt students come out, multiple research projects. They did amphibians and snakes this summer and had little, reports about that. And just looking at all the different, endangered fauna and invasives in the park. And so basically our mission is just to help them. Also, we had a bridge that we built probably 10 years ago in the park, and it got dilapidated and had to be taken down by maintenance. And so in that time, we found a bridge company, and with Jim Hester's help and maintenance, looks like we're going to get a new aluminum bridge that doesn't rot in mold and the like. And so, and also we've got a lot of pressure around the park right now. We've got people who will pull a permit and they'll come out and dump rock and asphalt or just whatever from construction sites. So we're fighting that right now because it has a direct bearing on the creeks that run through the park, and the park, part of it's state natural area. And so since COVID, kids have been coming out there running the trails. You all put us a new 12-mile trail in, and it's working beautifully, and just recently got some beautiful, beautiful signs, amazing signs that, and under Heather's leadership, we've really come a long way. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions from the board? All righty, thank you so much. We're moving now to capital projects, an update from Tim Nitch. Hello.
Hello. As usual, I'll just hit on some high points or big changes from last month. At Bordeaux Gardens, we're in the process of requisitioning that work. That'll be a playground and shelter. We have an existing contract we can use, so it won't have to go out to bid. So we'll save a little bit of time that way. On that one, at Cassie Gardner Senior Park, Phase 2 is currently in the middle of the bidding process. That is being funded and managed by MDHA. At Millridge Park and Ravenwood Park, construction is proceeding, although this rain and the predicted rain to come is not helping us with our schedule. At Old Hickory Park Community Center Design, we had a final public meeting a couple of weeks ago, which went well. The design team is wrapping up the bid set, and we hope to be able to release an RFP for construction early next year. Tusculum Road Park, now Mariposa Park. We completed the first round of public meetings. We'll have another in early 2023, and in the meantime, the design team is working on concepts for that master plan. At Two Rivers Park, the Mansion Events Center, design has launched on that, and we'll be meeting with representatives from the Friends Group next week. And at Wharf Park, the master plan, we had delayed a third and final public meeting in order to host a joint meeting with the planning department because at the behest of Metro Council, they're completing a feasibility study for 88 Hermitage Avenue, and at least a portion of that site will be part of Wharf Park. That meeting now is tentatively scheduled for January. We're working on a date for that, but then that will allow us to wrap things up on the Wharf Park Master Plan. That's it. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Thank you so much, Tim.
Thank you.
We're moving now to Greenways Open Space update from Cindy Harrison.
Hello. I'll touch on a few highlights. The Charlotte Corridor Rail with Greenway, we are continuing to meet with adjacent property owners and coordinate with other departments in Metro as we try to finalize the routing for that Greenway and looking to doing a final public meeting with a presentation of the draft master plan in the first of the year. The 440 Greenway Sevier Park to Browns Creek Park, we have been working on also that routing plan and updating our excess land license application to the state, and are preparing for a public meeting on that project also in January. The 440 Greenway Park Plaza to Centennial Park, we're working on the design for that and are adding in a component that will take the trail, working with Tim on into Centennial Park into that trail network. Fort Negley Greenway, in kind of an add-on to Tim's work that he's done in the master planning of Fort Negley. We're doing a study to understand how to best tie in Fort Negley to Browns Creek and the future Browns Creek Greenway via a greenway system. Those are all capital funded projects. Looking at privately funded greenway projects, there was public meeting. It wasn't a Metro public meeting. It was a developer meeting last night for the Richland Creek Greenway, for a new segment of that would connect the trailhead behind Publix at the old White Bridge Road over to the St. Thomas campus, where we have some easements there. The developer has an SP project that requires greenway easements, and they'll be doing construction of some of that. So that's still in kind of the midway planning stages, but we're excited to have that connection. The trailhead upgrade project at Metro Center Levee is continuing, and we're trying to plan an opening for that. It looks like it might be wintertime, so just bring your coats. But that's an exciting project for us. And in greenways and the open space acquisitions, Lachlan Springs has gone on to Metro Council. That'll be moving through that process. You all approved that at the last meeting. And that's it for highlights. If you have questions.
Thank you so much. Any questions? All righty, we'll move now to upcoming special activities and events with Jackie Jones.
Good afternoon, everybody. 'Tis the season. So since this is the holiday season, rather than go through a list of events, I thought I would bring to your attention the many shopping opportunities that are available at many of our Metro Parks facilities. So I'm going to run through this very quickly. Many of you will receive this. Well, most people will receive this by way of newsletter and a news release that we're doing later in the week about these shopping opportunities. So the gift shop at the Parthenon offers T-shirts that are celebrating the museum, as well as Musician's Corner. They are also offering bandanas, canvas bags, brass ornaments, metal cuff bracelets, earrings, jewelry, safari toys, and honey collected from the hives in the Centennial Park, as well as other souvenirs. The Centennial Art Center, which most of you are familiar with, they offer various objects, art-oriented objects for sale by both the students and the teachers. You can purchase pottery, paintings, jewelry, and many other arts-oriented types of gifts. You really should check them out if you haven't already. Warner Park Nature Center offers one-of-a-kind walking sticks that are made from black walnut and from the meadows that are actually in the parks. These walking sticks are handcrafted by naturalist Will Chamberlain and are very durable. In addition, they have for sale colorful bug socks. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I enunciated properly. Fitted puffy vest, historical books, sweatshirts, calendars, and much more. The Shelby Park Nature Center is offering water bottles with logos, scented candles with lids, and other souvenir, nature-oriented types of gift items. And finally, it's never too late to get in shape. Our Centennial Sportsplex is offering holiday membership deals. So if you want to avoid the traffic, the long lines, and porch pirates, head over to one of the facilities that I've mentioned, and you can thank me later. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Jackie. We're moving now to the report of the director, Director Odom. Any questions for Jackie? I'm sorry.
Yes, I had one. What's a safari toy?
So a safari toy would be sort of a stuffed animal or toy that is oriented, that is an animal that you would find
Giraffe,
on a
something like
safari.
that. Okay.
A lion, a tiger, a bear. Oh, my.
Thank you.
Got it. Thank you. Great question. Moving now to Director Odom, report of the director.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I only have a few announcements today, and we'll follow up with you as I normally do consistently throughout the month. Want to make you all aware and also congratulate Mr. Phil Luckett, who many of you have met Phil. Come on in here, Phil. Phil is our new Assistant Director for Consolidated Maintenance. As of last week, I think. As of last week, 11/25. Yeah. Phil, again, many of you know Phil. He transferred earlier this year from the golf maintenance section to as a superintendent there to a superintendent in consolidated maintenance, where he quickly took on leadership roles, brought some innovation, his great problem solving skills, and he is really a team worker, team leader, etc. And so we're excited to have Phil in his leadership role and working with our team. I mentioned to you all last month that we had a delegation to attend the TRPA conference in Gatlinburg in November. And I am happy to announce that the Sevier Park Community Center received the award for Best Overall Programs, presented by the TRPA's Ethnic Minority section. The Donald H. Stanton Award recognizes the quality, consistency, and management of the programs run at Sevier Park Regional Community Center. So congratulations to Randy Crawley and his team there, and also Stevon Nellums, who you all know, who leads that division. I would be remiss if I did not say, I think you all probably know, that we are continuing to work to fill the abundance of vacancies that we do have here in the department. If you all have any, know of any people who are interested in our many positions that are available, please refer them to our HR division or to me, and we'd be most appreciative of that. Had a conversation earlier with Mr. Johnston, and so I wanted to report that we will convene a small working group, mostly comprised of park staff, to kind of scope out where a couple of sites, bring back to you recommendations for a miracle field. Mr. Johnston has wants to support that effort, and we are, of course, as a Parks Board, supportive of having a miracle field in the park system, given we have populations that are underrepresented in terms of recreational activities. So we will start to do a bit of research on that, and we'll come back to you all when we have something to recommend, and then we'll move on to next steps. And then finally, I'd just like to say a thank you to the Nashville Parks Foundation, once again, who will be sponsoring our employee lunch event on December 16th. Thank you very much. Thank you for appreciating what we do. We appreciate what you do, not only for this particular event. This is the one event where all Parks employees are able to come and gather and visit, but then too for all that you do to support the department and the programs of the department. You all approved earlier on this agenda some additional funding for our disabilities program, $20,000 from the Parks Foundation. So we are very grateful for your support and appreciate you. With that, questions?
Is there any update on Brookmead? Because okay, and I do have one other thing after you're done.
That's it.
Thank you. Any other questions? All righty, we are moving now to announcement requests for future agenda items and open items. As it relates to Brookmead, the park will officially close for remediation on Wednesday, January 4th. I want to thank the Metro Homeless Impact Division and the many Metro departments that came together and provided their expertise to help us address this issue. The city's goal is to provide housing and services for the unsheltered, and we support that goal. However, there is another aspect of this issue that would have to be addressed, and that is the issue of enforcement. While we are hopeful that everyone will accept housing, we are not naive and realize that not everyone who is offered housing will accept it. The complications causing homelessness, as you well know, are driven by a variety of issues, as are the reasons that some displaced individuals reject housing. While the Parks Board and the Parks Department understand the difficulty of the issue, we are also fully aware of the complexity and the politics of enforcement. It is the position of the Metropolitan Board of Parks and Recreation that people should not be living in that park, in any park. There are members of the community that agree and those that disagree, believing parks are public land and it is their right to do with it as they please. The fact of the matter is there is a longstanding policy on Metropolitan Parks land that forbids overnight camping. We are currently working in conjunction with the Metro Nashville Police Department that oversees the work of the Metro Parks Police and the Mayor's office on this issue. We will communicate that plan as deemed appropriate by law enforcement. Housing the unsheltered is a systems issue, one for several entities to solve in this city as the state and local at the state and local government level, as well as in conjunction with businesses and nonprofits in the areas affected. Based on best practices and care and concern for the unsheltered, we will continue to work with the Metro Homeless Impact Division and entities serving in this capacity. At this point, we are near park closure, which entails securing the park for renovation. The fencing, though, has to pass 3 readings. It has to pass 3 readings by the council before we can actually install the fence. We are optimistic that it will be approved by council on December 20th for installation after the first of the year. Do you have additional questions? Any questions from the board? Okay. Moving to, I got it. Our next meeting is scheduled for January 3rd, 2023. The day before is the Metropolitan Government holiday, observed holiday. And so I would like to recommend that we move our meeting up 1 week to January 10th of 2023. Does that work for your calendars? Please
Second.
look now.
We'll shake it later. We'll check them later.
So it works for you, same time, same place,
I'll make it
same bat station. So Commissioner and Commissioner Haynes is not here. We will notify the public in advance. I believe we owe you a 14-day notice. We will do that. But
We have to do it on a Tuesday.
Okay, so the recommendation is for the week after. We know that 2, maybe possibly 3 can't be here, but we will find a date as that is an observed holiday the day before. We want to give staff and faculty back at school, give staff time to prepare, for that next day. And so that is an open item for us. Any other comments from the board? Mm-hmm.
I would like to make a recommendation that we revisit our agenda. I think the name was mentioned earlier, and I think it comes from our old friend Jim Fike. I think we've inherited this is a legacy agenda, and I think it really needs to be revisited. And I'd recommend that maybe during the committee meetings we just carve out a time and just discuss that, and just maybe see how we want to change it. I think we need more dialogue in here and more some deeper dives and address some areas and be updated a little bit more going forward. The times have changed, and I think the agenda needs to as well. So if we could put that on the next meeting before to have the next meeting or two, we can come up with an agenda we all agree with.
And you're asking for that at our retreat, proposed retreat?
No, I would do it. I would just do it before one of these in a committee meeting setting. Yeah, I don't know what committee it would come under, but where all the board members can have input into a new agenda.
We'll make sure. We'll make sure we can have that. Have our meeting. Any other comments from the board? I want to say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you. It's the season. To this board, it's been a year. I want to thank you for your tenacity and your steadfastness. I know that you all love this work. Perhaps it's not what you signed up for, but it is the work. And just say to you that in this season, as we're thinking about Jesus Christ, he never leaves us nor forsakes us. It's always with us. And so just remember that and take that with you through the season. Merry Christmas, and I'll see y'all next year. I will lay eyes on you next year. I will accept a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Bye, y'all. We're adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.